It takes a lot to surprise me these days, but the 2023 Mercedes-Benz EQE 350 4MATIC all-electric luxury sedan just shook me to my very core, and you won't believe what happened. Was that a sensational enough intro for the video? Okay, great. Yeah, basically, I really like this car. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. But before we get to the finer points of the EQE, of which there are many, let's very briefly touch on design. And overall, this car looks basically like a 3/4 or maybe a 7/8 scale EQS. It is a very sleek looking car with no tacked on trim or unnecessary creases or lines in the bodywork. It is overall very sleek. As for the wheelbase, it's nearly 123 inches. They've really pushed those wheels out to the corners of the vehicle to increase interior volume. And size-wise, the EQE, you can basically think of it as an all-electric version of the E-Class, though the wheelbase is about 7.1 inches longer than an E-Class. But I will say the proportions of this vehicle are just a little bit odd. To my eye, it looks like a well-used, a rounded-off bar of soap. Don't you see that? It's just so sleek and smooth. Plus, we've got this very leaned back windshield, large windshield that flows along the roof here into the back end that is quite sort of smushed in. And obviously they've done a whole lot of work in the wind tunnel to make this car as efficient as possible. But still, I do appreciate the overall cleanliness of this design. Back up front, let's talk paint. This color is called Obsidian Black Metallic, and it looks pretty fantastic on this car. It's got a little bit of metal flake to it, but best of all, it is a no-charge color. Automakers love to nickel and dime you for fancy paint, but not here. You can get this free of charge. Now, while we're also up at the front of the vehicle, let's talk about this pattern here on the grille. This is optional. It's $300 extra. You get this lovely pattern of little chicken feet, which of course are part of the Mercedes-Benz logo. I think this looks fantastic on the car because it fills in what would otherwise be basically an empty insert right on the front of the vehicle. Moving to the side here, there's a little bit of a door that you have to check out. Now, what is this for? Well, this is where you fill the washer fluid reservoir. Now, why is that? Well, that's because you're not allowed to open the hood. Only qualified technicians are supposed to go digging around underneath the hood, not you as the driving public. So they added this little filler door here on the side, which is frankly a needless complexity because just let the hood open. It's super easy to fill your washer fluid reservoir under there. It's not a big deal, but I get it. Mercedes-Benz customers are not going to be doing their own service or getting dirt under their fingernails, but still. Sometimes simpler is better. As for wheels, we have optional 20 inchers on this car with a lovely sort of black insert on them. It looks fantastic, and they only charge $850 for this set of wheels, which is a very good deal. Moving to the rear once again, let's talk about the charging port. They've put that on the passenger side back fender right here. Push the door like that to open it, and as you can see, it's your pretty much standard CCS outlet. We can do level 1 or level 2 AC charging, or you pull this fiddly and annoying little plug out, and that lets you DC fast charge. But you've seen one of these ports, you've seen them all. Now, if you want to charge at home, though, of course, Mercedes-Benz will happily sell you a charger, but I don't recommend you take them up on that offer because you get this. It's $250 for a level 1 home charger. That's terrible, and I don't see that the end is swappable to do level 2 charging at all. So this is frankly a terrible deal. Don't buy this. You can do much better purchasing a charger from an aftermarket company. The 350 4MATIC is sort of a mid-range model in the EQE lineup, but the interior of this car is still super nice. It's comfortable, roomy, and extremely well built. As for materials on the doors and seats, we have some lovely MB Tex artificial leather that looks great, and I gotta say, it feels fantastic as well. One thing I don't care for is right up here on the dashboard. This trim is called the Anthracite the Anthracite 3D Relief Optic trim, and I don't think it looks very good at all. It's just basically a shiny slab of plastic that they charge you $540 for. Not worth it at all. I would much prefer one of the wood trims that you can get in the EQE. Particularly, they have this walnut with sort of a metallic pinstripe that, at least in photographs, looks absolutely fantastic. And of course, since Mercedes-Benz is a German automaker, they love nickel and diming you for options. So you want a heated steering wheel? it's going to cost you $250 extra. You want ventilated front seats? Plan on shelling out $450. 4-zone climate control is going to run you $760. Laminated windows and windshield is $1,100 more. And of course, if you want the driver assistance package, that's $1,250. And honestly, in a car of this caliber, items like that should probably just be standard. As for tech, we've got a beautiful 12.3-inch display right in front of the driver for the reconfigurable digital instrument cluster. This is very easy to see and read. It looks beautiful, and it's dead simple to cycle through various menus using the touch controls on the steering wheel here. And I will say, these respond exceptionally well. In other Mercedes-Benz models that I've reviewed in recent years, their touch controls have not been good, not nearly as good as these. So I'm glad to see that they've made some improvements in this area, because these controls are genuinely nice to use. They respond and do exactly what I tell them. And the center of the dashboard here, we have a 12.8-inch OLED touchscreen for the infotainment system, of course, and the MBUX multimedia array that runs on here is very responsive. It is quick, and it's surprisingly intuitive as well. There's a lot of functionality here, but it's exceptionally easy to use. And part of the reason for that is that they have this thing called the zero layer, which basically puts commonly used features right on the home screen, so you don't have to go clicking through a whole bunch of different menus to get to stuff you're always using. So that is a boon for usability. Now, the EQE will be offered with the Hyperscreen, you know, that giant dashboard-sized display, one sheet of glass on the dashboard. It's not available in the US just yet, but that's supposedly in the works, though honestly, I like this setup better, the two separate screens, because the Hyperscreen takes up the whole dashboard, but it's still 3 separate displays in one panel. Like, what's the point? I think this looks better and probably works better as well. Now, if you want to learn more, we've got a whole separate video all about the EQE's interior and technology that's set to come out very soon, so make sure you are subscribed to the EV Pulse YouTube channel so you can check that feature out once it goes live. But in the meantime, let's take this car for a spin. And first things first, let's talk speeds and feeds. Underneath my feet is a 90.6 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack that provides 260 miles of range, which is a good figure, but of course when it comes to driving range, more is always better. However, when I left the house this morning at a 100% state of charge, the car was estimating that it had about 323 miles of range in the tank, so to speak. So perhaps Mercedes-Benz is being very conservative here. Though, if you want to maximize your mileage in an EQE, you're going to want to go for the EQE 350 Plus model, which is EPA rated at 305 miles on a charge. A little bit nicer figure if you ask me. As for DC fast charging performance, this car tops out at 170 kilowatts, which of course is a good, but far from segment-leading performance. Still, that'll get you from 10 to 80% in a claimed 32 minutes. But this is an EQE 4MATIC model, which means we have not one, but 2 separate electric motors, of course, one at each axle, providing all-wheel drive. And those motors get you 288 horsepower, oddly the same amount as you get in a rear-wheel drive EQE, figure that one out. But we do have significantly more torque here, 564 pound-feet. Now, despite that mountain of twist, this car doesn't feel all that quick. Now, don't get me wrong, it moves well, and you're really not lacking for performance. It'll go from 0 to 60 in a Mercedes-Benz estimated 6 seconds flat, but it really doesn't feel all that vigorous, especially at higher speeds. It tends to seem a bit winded. But I think a major reason why the EQE feels a bit tepid is that it's so refined. There's basically zero powertrain vibration or noise, especially if you go into the infotainment system and turn off the fake engine sounds, and the car will actually make revving noises in park if you hit the accelerator, which is kind of weird. I'm not sure how I feel about that feature, but anyway, turn off the fake engine noises. We have the optional $1,100 acoustic comfort package, which includes laminated side glass and a laminated windshield. And then, of course, there's the $1,900 Airmatic suspension system, which provides a ride that is creamier than chocolate mousse. It is soft, but well controlled, just the right amount of float over bumps. Like, well, just the right amount of hard liquor at breakfast. Just enough so you're slurring your words, but not so much that you pass out at the keyboard. The steering in this car is light with an appropriate ratio. It's neither too quick nor too slow, and I do really like this thick-set steering wheel rim that feels great in your hands. Enhancing agility at low speeds and stability on the highway, the EQE is available with rear axle steering. There are two flavors, either 4.5 degrees or what we have here, 10 degrees. Either way, it's $1,300 as an option. And it's totally transparent. You never feel this system working or doing anything, but it does reduce the turning circle from 41 feet to just 35. So basically, the rear wheel steering supercharges this large sedan's agility. As for regenerative braking, there are 3 different levels to choose from, and you adjust those with paddles conveniently mounted right here on the steering wheel. So there's strong recuperation, normal recuperation, and then no recuperation, the latter of which kind of lets the car just sail right along when you lift your foot off the accelerator. This vehicle also has the $1,250 optional driver assistance package that includes adaptive cruise control with stop and go capability. We have active blind spot assist, there's active lane change assist, active bunch of other stuff I'm not going to list. You get the point. You pay more, you get some extra features. And you kind of need all of that tech because outward visibility in this car is surprisingly restricted in pretty much all directions. The windshield is very steeply raked and you get a bit of glare from that. The pillars A, B, and C are all very meaty and block your vision. The cowl is high, as is the dashboard, and then the back glass, the rear window, is very narrow as well. So you need driver aids, otherwise you're going to be backing up until you hear something, either a crunch or a scream, and you probably don't want to be doing that. Anyway, let's summarize this all-electric Mercedes-Benz's strengths and weaknesses and then wrap this video up. Here's what I love about the EQE. The infotainment system and related tech are superb. This sedan's back seat is cushy and spacious. The interior is beautifully designed, aside from that dashboard trim. The ride is pillowy soft, yet well controlled. And I do like the sleek, restrained exterior design. As for negatives, none of them are egregious. Rather, they're areas where the car could simply do a little bit better. The EQE's DC fast charging performance is good, but there is room for improvement. The range, especially for an all-wheel drive luxury sedan, is not bad, but a little bit more would be nice. I don't like the nickel and dime options. And finally, the acceleration is perfectly fine, but this car should feel a little more vigorous given that it has 564 pounds of torque. Overall, I am exceedingly impressed by the EQE 350 4MATIC because I think this sedan really hits the sweet spot. It's comfortable, refined, luxurious, and of course offers loads of great tech. And while it is certainly not cheap, this car isn't insanely expensive either. As it sits, this example checks out for $90,305, including delivery fees. Now, that is a lot of cash, but it's not unreasonable for everything that you're getting. This is frankly a fantastic EV, and it might just be one of my favorites. Another lovely luxury EV you should consider is the Genesis electrified GV70. Click right over here to check out my full review of this awesome battery-powered SUV.